Hey guys, it's Chancey and it has been a while. I apologize. Britton's in there cooking, so I figured I'd jump on here and kind of give y'all guys a little update. So first off, I can't even remember when I finished last. Oh, that's right. The week before we had our anatomy scan. So around 19 weeks is when I last updated y'all. I am now 23 weeks, so it's been a little bit of a time.
23.
I said that. I am now 23 weeks. There's Britt in there. Anywho, so since we spoke last, we had the anatomy scan. That we went in there very, very hopeful because we haven't had any issues. But we walked out of there, obviously, like, terrified. First off, let me just start with the good news. And the good news is all the organs and everything looked great. There was no concerns with the heart, liver, all the organs. They looked good. Where we had concerns was after they did the exam, the doctor came in and spoke with us. And the doctor just kind of went over that, yes, they all looked good, but they were not where they should be. Not like in different places. But like at that time, they should have been at the 20-week mark, and they were all measuring around 19 weeks. So we were measuring a week behind. And the last time that we had went to an ultrasound, which had been 12 weeks-ish, even before then, actually, he was measuring 2 days ahead. So to be a week behind was kind of not good. In the beginning, though, we did always measure 2 days behind. And then all of a sudden it was 2 days ahead and we were excited, and now it's a week. Anyways, so that was the first concern. The second thing that they were concerned, and with that, it wasn't just his body that was measuring behind. All of his organs and whatnot were equally as behind. Everything was a week behind. So then the second thing that we ended up talking about was, she said that I had Placenta Privia. I didn't even know what that was until this day. And that is more concerning if you are also on Lovenox. For most people, Placenta Privia just means, okay, you can't have a vaginal birth. You have to do the C-section route. The problem, but it also is at a higher risk of bleeding in late pregnancy. The issue with being on the Lovenox is, with that increased risk of bleeding, you're also increased risk of bleeding out because your blood is so thin. So pretty much they told me at any sign of bleeding to rush, well, first off, they said triage, but rush to labor and delivery so that I don't bleed out. My OB also let me know that if that happened too many times, that she would just keep me in the hospital long term. Thankfully, we have not had to cross that bridge. But I guess they told me to be prepared for that because I guess that's normal. I don't know. But for most people, like I said, it's just an easy, okay, well, you have to have C-section. You don't get to choose. But the good news is with Placenta Privia, a lot of times it can correct itself by the 28th week. So we actually are going to go back next week at 24 weeks and redo the scan and check everything to see his growth and whatnot. And also during that time, they'll also look for the Placenta Privia to see if it kind of cured itself. And if not, we'll have a better idea of, okay, then we need to go ahead and schedule for sure a C-section versus vaginal birth, which is fine. Like, obviously, if I get to choose, I'll choose vaginal birth, but I'm totally cool with C-sections too. I hear great things about both. So yeah, that'll be coming up. We'll figure it out. My husband let me know that he apparently did like a Google source, and he says he found multiple sources that said 90% of the time this will cure itself. That didn't come from our doctor, obviously, but we're hoping that we're in that 90% maybe. They did say something about, I was in an 8% or something. What did they say exactly?
It said that baby was measuring the 8th percentile.
Oh, never mind. I thought that was for Placenta Privia. Apparently the baby was measuring in the 8th percentile, which obviously is not good. Under 10% is the IUGR, which stands for intrauterine growth restriction. Sorry, I had to remember that.
Same thing as fetal growth restriction.
same thing as fetal growth restriction, which we're hoping is not our case, but the fact that he is measuring behind is a little bit scary. So we may end up being an IUGR baby, or having an IUGR baby. Also, considering everything, the fact that all of his organs and whatnot are proportionate is a good sign. But the bad thing is I don't know if y'all remember me speaking about this, but with APS, here it comes back to APS. They warned me in the beginning that APS, you are at higher risk of like small baby syndrome, which is where the uterus no longer, and the placenta no longer function for your baby correctly, to where your baby's growth slows. This usually is not seen until the 3rd trimester. So we're hoping that this is not what it is, because if so, it's very, very early, and we don't want him to have to come out earlier than he has to get the nutrients he needs. But obviously, if that's what needs to happen, that's what needs to happen.
Placenta Privia also can cause, hello everybody, can cause that as well, because they don't get the sufficient nutrients that they need for the placenta, which is essentially the lifeline of the nutritional supply. So we should write a book.
No kidding. Sorry, I took a break. Britt made us some dinner. But I'm back. So pretty much, we left that appointment knowing that the baby was small, and then also that we had placenta previa. We go to our OB afterwards, and I'm talking to her, and I'm like, oh, by the way, I've been checking my blood pressure. This is the readings. She then is like, oh no. Like, at first she calmed us down about the first 2 problems. She was like, first off, a lot of times it corrects itself. Secondly, worst case scenario, we have plans and things that we can do to take care of, like a C-section or keeping me in the hospital long term, or just things around it. But then when we started talking about blood pressure, she did not like where it was at. It had been like pretty consistently in the high 130s, low 140s. And that's not what she wanted to see. So she didn't want to diagnose me with anything just yet, just because she was like, we're going to run some tests. We're just going to do this. She goes, because I don't want to put that on your chart yet if we don't have to. So I go home with this pee jug and had to pee in a jug for 24 hours. And then send it in. And then she did some blood work and things too. The crazy thing is the day after I left there, my blood pressure went from like the 140s to the 120s, like insanely. And for the last 2 weeks, I have only had 1 day that was close to 140. Why? I don't know. God, I guess. But I mean, there's literally nothing else that makes sense, because if anything, I would have been more stressed leaving there. So I don't really know what caused it, but all of a sudden I had a drop, and everything's been fine since. So hopefully it stays that way. Also, what I noticed was around this time, and actually it was 3 weeks ago, around this time, also I had I had been having migraines every single day. And around this time, my migraines went away. And the only day that I have had a high blood pressure reading was the day that I also had a migraine. So clearly they're going hand in hand. I haven't been getting them near as much. My blood pressure has been great. Before I got them all the time, and my blood pressure was terrible. So that was also a new thing, because I didn't realize that they went hand in hand, which makes sense anyways. So yep, those were our 3 big problems. We do have plans for each of them. Hopefully the blood pressure has already corrected itself. The baby's growth hopefully has been catching up. Also, I've been told this from so many different people. There's no textbook baby. So just because your baby's behind 1 week doesn't mean that they're going to continuously stay behind. A lot of times they just haven't hit their inner womb growth spurt and whatnot. So, I mean, there's a very good chance that we can go and none of these even apply to us anymore, which is what we're hoping for. But even if they do, we'll be okay. Our doctors are on top of it, thankfully. However, I went through 3 weeks since week 19. I've been taking bump pictures, and I started to get really nervous this past week, because I was looking at the pictures and I was like, my bump is not getting any bigger. And my husband over here found this lovely little measurement thing, and we measured my bump, and it was supposed to be if you measure it from the top of your uterus to your what is it? Your top of your uterus to your what?
Yeah,
Pelvic bone.
Yeah, your pelvic bone.
Then it should be about the number of weeks you are. So I'm measuring it, and it should have been reading 22 at the time, and it was measuring 19. And I'm like, what if I literally am stuck at that 19-week mark and nothing's changing? So then I started getting really in my head, and I swear God knew I was like starting to stress out about it, because then I went to sleep one day, woke up, and I got way bigger. I went from 19 to 20 to 22, which is where I needed to be. And then I also went from 102 inches around to 108? 105. So I also, or not inches, centimeters. Gosh, that would be scary.
Oh, shit.
But so I went up 3 centimeters around also. So I gained a whole lot of weight very quickly. And I know that he was like, okay, she's starting to worry. I need to like send her a sign that everything's okay. And I just bumped all of a sudden. So yeah, I think we have caught you up. Was there anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, you know what, guys? Just keep in mind that no matter what happens to you, you're one of the true heroes. Okay? Always. That's it.
Okay, y'all guys. Thank y'all guys for following our journey. We just figured we'd update y'all, or I'd update y'all real quick with everything that's been going on. But so far, I mean, we've been really great. Yeah, we got some bad news. But overall, he's doing just great, and he's growing. And we are 23 weeks.
Hey.
Bye.
Later.
All right, guys. I've been really worried about how I wasn't getting weight. And I think overnight, I finally gained weight.
How you gained weight? Because you a hot mama.
All these bruises. All these bruises are from my Lovenugs.